Coinbase is being investigated by the SEC for potentially violating securities listings laws. Of course, Coinbase is one of the largest exchanges in the world and probably the most dominant within the United States as well. It's basically a household name at this point. The SEC is looking into its 200 or so coins that it has listed over the history of the exchange. Following comments from Coinbase are also interesting. Their chief legal officer, Paul Grewal, said in response that we are confident that our rigorous diligence process, a process the SEC has already reviewed, keeps securities off our platform. We can look forward to engaging with the SEC on the matter. Of course, this also comes after last week's news where 3 individuals were charged by both the Department of Justice and the SEC for violating securities laws by insider trading. David, I want to throw this one to you. This has huge implications, I should say, for just digital asset space in general, because everything runs through an exchange, right? Everything touches an exchange at some point. And so if they're going after Coinbase, this could mean so much for so many tokens that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is basically a good thing. I want to, hopefully I think we have a tweet from Paul Grewal, who's the chief legal officer at Coinbase. And I want to quote him directly because I think, in situations like this, specific terminology is important. He tweeted, "We are confident that our rigorous diligence process, a process that the SEC has already reviewed, keeps securities off our platform, and we look forward to engaging with the SEC on the matter." And he links to a post where Coinbase says, "Coinbase does not list securities, end of story." The significant thing about that comment and about the entire context here is that just because Coinbase has a process that the SEC has had some visibility into doesn't mean that Coinbase has reliably followed that process every single time, or that it, just because it has a process, has approval to use its own judgment. And keep in mind that it was Coinbase that just a couple of days ago, one of their former employees, I believe, got hit with insider trading charges. And that was also another moment when the SEC laid out a few tokens that Coinbase already listed that it basically said in that filing it believes to be securities. So, Paul's tweet here, good on him for doing his job, but it's not in any way determinative of how this process is going to go, because the SEC already has found parts of Coinbase's internal processes that violate, according to its standards. So, it doesn't really mean anything at all that Coinbase has a process. The SEC's job is to go in there and figure out whether it was actually following the process. The other thing that I'll say, and there have been plenty of observations to this effect over the last few days, but Coinbase has really started over the last 6 to 8 months, if not longer, scraping the real bottom of the barrel in terms of the quality of the assets that it's listing. And I do think that plays a factor here. I mean, we're seeing them list coins with like $1.5 million total market caps, which are really just gambling to be involved in. And so I can't imagine that does not factor into the SEC's movement here. If Coinbase is just tossing whatever it feels like up on the exchange, whether or not it technically fits some big picture definition of security, might be less relevant to the SEC than the fact that they're just exposing customers to genuinely ridiculous levels of risk. So I think that is part of the context here as well. Jen, what do you think? Are we in trouble if the SEC starts sniffing too closely?
I think that it is so hard to be in a legal department at one of these exchanges in the US. I think that the SEC's rules are so unclear that how can we expect anyone to abide by rules that are ever evolving and ever changing, right? We're talking about all of these obscure coins that Coinbase has listed, but SEC Chairman Gary Gensler has been very public about his opinion that Ethereum is in fact a security. And so I don't know what is going to happen next when it comes to the SEC and Coinbase. It would be a really interesting exercise to see Coinbase and the SEC go through each and every token that is listed on the exchange and pressure pressure test that against the Howey test. I think it might be a nice lesson to the SEC that maybe some of these things can't be applied to this rule that was created almost a century ago. And it might be the driving force that helps them create something that is more fitted to the crypto industry, or it might just be really bad for exchanges in the US. I'm not sure. I'm not very hopeful. I'm sorry, I don't have an optimistic take on this story for the first time in a while. I don't know, Will, what do you think?
Yeah, I can kind of see the story both ways, right? On the one hand, you have the SEC, which has been very slow to bring out the rules. They've only really talked about Bitcoin, and some people have read the tea leaves around Ether that it also might just be classified as a commodity and not necessarily security. But past that, there hasn't been a lot of good information for entrepreneurs out there who are trying to build these tokens. They're trying to build like these new ecosystems, and they sort of look like securities. On the other hand, Coinbase has been listing some very, very weird assets, just assets nobody knows about. They don't really know what the purpose of them are. And some people have accused Coinbase of just trying to increase their revenues by listing these random coins. And so I do think that there's two sides to the story, and we'll have to see what happens in court when this goes to trial, or if it even meets trial, if maybe just Coinbase settles. But it has definitely implications for not only Coinbase, the largest exchange in the United States, or at least the most probably well-known exchange in the US, but also has implications for all the tokens out there and all the builders out there who are trying to make these token ecosystems. David, I'll give it to you for next story.
Yeah, one last comment on the Coinbase thing. I think, Will, you're absolutely spot on that. I mean, the upside here would be if builders and designers actually started paying attention and felt like there was some kind of accountability. I mean, we look at just what happened with Celsius just a couple of months ago. This is a US listed and domiciled corporation that felt like it was completely okay to issue its own token and use it as part of its business model and use it as part of its financial calculations in a way that clearly was a huge problem, leaving aside even the question of securities. And I would also call out people who are, over the last year, have been really eager to create NFTs that generate revenue, which, you're like running at 90 miles an hour into a brick wall, guys. Let's get it together. Come on.